I've been a guitar teacher for well over a decade now, and I've seen hundreds of people start their guitar journey. I've seen students who progress incredibly quickly, I've seen students who become frustrated and quit, and I've seen students who turn up week after week without practicing at all. But there's one really important thing I've noticed. The people who progress the furthest usually aren't the ones who expect guitar to be easy. They're the ones who understand what learning guitar actually feels like. Because when most people start, they have a picture in their head of where they want to get to. They see incredible players online, listen to the songs they love, and imagine themselves playing like that. Then they pick up the guitar and reality hits. Chord changes feel impossible, the fingers don't move properly, the rhythm falls apart, and many people mistake that struggle for a sign that they aren't good at guitar. But those struggles are actually a normal and expected part of learning. I want to share the things I wish every beginner guitarist knew before starting, the lessons I've learned from my own playing and from helping hundreds of other guitarists along their journeys. The first thing I would tell every beginner guitarist is this: you're going to sound bad for a while. Your chords will buzz, your fingers won't move where you want them to, and your rhythm will fall apart. Songs that look simple will feel impossible. And perhaps the biggest mistake beginners make is thinking, I'm struggling because I can't play guitar, when in reality they're struggling because they're learning guitar. I remember learning the C and G chords after feeling pretty confident playing the A and E chords. And I thought I was making good progress, and then I saw those chord shapes and thought, how the hell are my fingers supposed to stretch that far? It's impossible. But of course my fingers weren't incapable, they just hadn't learnt the movement yet. The first song I ever learned was Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, and looking back I have absolutely no idea why I chose to learn that first. It has string skipping, awkward stretches, lots of timing challenges. It's not really appropriate for a beginner, and it definitely wasn't the easiest place to start. But that's also part of learning guitar. You don't always choose the easiest path, you choose the music that inspires you, and sometimes that inspiration is what keeps you going. My first real struggle came when I found my first guitar teacher. She was a folk player and was very focused on fingerstyle. I remember leaving that first lesson thinking my fingers are broken, I couldn't get them to do what she wanted me to do on the guitar. But after spending hours working on the piece and gradually the movement became more natural, it stopped feeling impossible, and today fingerstyle is one of the strongest areas of my playing. And that's something I see with my students all the time. The thing that feels impossible today can become the thing that you don't even think about tomorrow. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. One of the biggest challenges for beginners today is that they have access to incredible players immediately. You can open YouTube and see people playing difficult songs, incredible solos, advanced techniques, and it's very easy to think, why can't I do that? But you're comparing your first few months of playing to someone's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years of dedication. I still experience this myself. I'm a huge fan of Guthrie Govan, and I spent months studying his playing, especially pieces like Wonderful Slippery Thing. If you haven't heard it, it's absolutely incredible. But here's the thing, I can't play like Guthrie, and I probably never will be able to. But that's okay, because comparing myself to Guthrie would be like a beginner comparing themselves to me and thinking, why can't I do that? They're comparing their first steps to someone else's decades of experience. Instead, I have a roadmap for my own playing, just like I have for my students. I study players like Guthrie Govan, Django Reinhardt and Stevie Ray Vaughan, not because I'm trying to become them, I'm trying to understand what makes them unique. The tiny details, the way Guthrie phrases a note, the way he bends into a pitch, and the way he creates emotion from a simple musical idea. Becoming a great guitarist isn't actually about finding one magic technique. It's about thousands of small improvements over years of playing. And that's something every guitarist can work towards. Learn songs, but don't just collect songs. In my opinion, songs are one of the best ways to learn guitar. They keep you motivated, they teach you rhythm, they teach you technique, and they expose you to new ideas. But there is a trap. Many players spend years collecting songs without understanding why they work. They know this is the chord shape, but not why does that progression sound good? Why does this rhythm create that particular feeling? Or why does this technique make that part sound unique? When I study a guitarist, I don't just want to learn their songs, I want to understand what I can take away and use in my own playing. I spent a lot of time studying Sam Fender's guitar parts because I love the way his chords and rhythm sounded. He combines strumming, picking, interesting chord voicings, and small details that make simple chords feel much more musical. If I'd just learned his songs, I would have walked away knowing how to play those songs. But by studying the ideas behind them, I gained the tools that I could use anywhere. I learned the value of open strings in chord voicings, and I learned new ways of combining picking and strumming. I learned how small rhythmic choices can completely change the feel of a part. Songs shouldn't be something you collect, they should teach you something that you can take forward. Don't learn guitar randomly. This is probably one of the biggest problems for guitarists today. Everyone knows that beginners don't lack information these days. They have too much, actually. You can find thousands of tutorials, endless exercises, millions of songs, everything tabbed for you on the internet. But then the question becomes, what should I actually learn next? And the order you learn things matters. I experienced this myself when I was studying music. I naturally loved music theory and I started diving deep into it. I was studying things like harmonic minor modes and quartal harmony, and the problem was I couldn't even improvise particularly well in the key of G major at the time, let alone over a minor major 7 chord. So I was learning these advanced concepts before I had fully developed skills that would actually allow me to use them. Luckily, I realised this before I'd spent years going down that rabbit hole. But the lesson wasn't that theory was bad. Theory is incredibly valuable. The lesson was that the right thing at the wrong time can slow you down. A skill learned at the right time makes everything easier. A skill learned too early can create frustration. Small improvements compound. One of the hardest things about learning guitar is that progress is rarely obvious. Most breakthroughs happen quietly. You practice something that feels impossible. You struggle, you repeat it. Then one day your chord changes improve, your rhythm settles, and your fingers start moving more naturally. Something clicks. I see this constantly with students. I have a student currently working towards his grade 3 exam. He has been struggling with the bar chords, rhythms and muting techniques in one of his pieces. He often comes to his lessons feel like he isn't really progressing, but something I find really interesting is that students are often terrible at judging their own improvement, and that's why I encourage people to record themselves. It can be really uncomfortable watching yourself back, but it's actually one of the best ways to see where you're actually at in your playing. A few weeks later, and the same student had completely turned things around. 2 of the songs were already looking strong, and he was comfortably on track for a great result. And the reason? His brain had been quietly putting everything together. If you think about everything involved in playing guitar, your fingers have to know where to go, both hands have to synchronize, your timing has to stay consistent, and you have to remember the structure of the song. You have to control the sound too. There is just so much happening. So don't judge your progress day to day. Look at the bigger picture. Look at the weeks, months and years. These tiny improvements compound. Your goal isn't to finish learning guitar. A lot of beginners imagine there will be a point where everything clicks, where you know all the chords, all the scales and all of the techniques, and you'll finally feel like a real guitarist. I've experienced this myself. I completed grade 8 acoustic guitar, grade 8 popular music theory and grade 8 electric guitar. And I remember thinking, when I get here, I'll finally feel like a good guitarist. But the funny thing is, I didn't. I still felt like I had a lot to learn, and I still do. I even considered continuing into diplomas and another degree before realising something. I was trying to finish guitar education, but guitar doesn't really work like that. Now, instead of chasing the next qualification, I have a different process. Every day I spend time studying the music I love. At the moment I'm working on Django Reinhardt's J'attendrai. I'm not trying to copy the notes, I'm trying to understand what he was thinking. Why did he choose that phrase? Why does that note work over that chord? How can I take that idea and use it in my own playing? And that process is much more rewarding. My goal isn't to become someone else, my goal is to become the best version of myself as a musician. So if you're starting your guitar journey right now and you're feeling frustrated because it's harder than you expected, remember, that feeling is normal. Every guitarist you admire went through this stage. The difference isn't that they avoided the difficult parts, it's that they kept going through them. Learning guitar isn't about becoming good as quickly as possible. It's about learning the right things at the right time, building your skills, understanding the instrument, and enjoying the process along the way. Because the goal was never to finish learning guitar. The goal is to become someone who loves learning it.